Hello there, Bro Stuff, Prophecy Insights. And today I want to focus on an article out of the newspaper in Israel called Debka. And Debka is one of the more responsible news agencies that really report news as it happens, and they report it in a very honest, non-biased way. And so you get the truth when you go to Debka. And I've been reading Debka reports for years now, for a very long time. So anyway, we want to focus on the Syrian bomb that crossed into Israeli airspace, and it cut through, actually went from Damascus, cut through some of Jordan, and then entered the West Bank of Israel and exploded near the Dimona Israeli nuclear plant. Now, a bomb just doesn't find its way to Dimona. Dimona has SAM systems, which are surface-to-air defensive missiles, all around it, because you know it's one of these things where Israel doesn't admit that Dimona is Israel's nuclear development center. It's kind of like a secret that everybody knows about, but they don't talk about it. So I want you to think this through with me. Iran has been threatening to annihilate Israel for years now. They call the United States Big Satan, they call Israel Little Satan. And recently, there's been a lot of tension between Iran, Israel, Iran, Saudi Arabia. And Iran has what's called proxies, like Syria is an Iranian-backed proxy. Hezbollah is a terrorist group that is a proxy of Iran. Hamas works in conjunction with Iran, so on and so forth. Well, what happened is, right in the center of Damascus, a surface-to-air missile that is only supposed to be able to go about 150 kilometers, which would be, maybe just over 100 miles. This SA-5 missile that is Russian Iranian built ends up going over 200 miles from Damascus, Syria, into Israel proper, and explodes right near Dimona, their nuclear facility, Israel's nuclear facility. Now imagine for a moment if Dimona got hit by this missile. And it and Dimona had a nuclear leak problem. Imagine if that occurred. What do you think the Israeli response would be? Israel would flatten Damascus, just absolutely destroy it. Israel would not allow her primary nuclear facility to be attacked and there not be a counterattack that would be unimaginable. That would disturb the conscience of everybody. The Bible says in Isaiah 17 that Damascus, Syria, is going to be totally destroyed. And it says in Isaiah toward the end of that chapter that Damascus is just no more. That in the morning Damascus was a city. At evening Damascus ceased to be a city and ceased to exist. That's Isaiah chapter 17. So we came within a breath of that possibly happening. Now, we've got major problems with Iran, with China, with Russia, with Israel, and Friends of Israel, which is the Arab countries that signed that peace agreement with Israel when Trump was president. So you have Saudi Arabia, you have the UAE nations of the Arab League that are now in this peace atmosphere with Israel. And so the Middle East is on pins and needles, just on absolute pins and needles. And so here we're faced with a situation that had the potential to be extremely explosive. My thought is that the Lord allowed the missile to disintegrate near Dimona and not hit it because it's not time to have the destruction of Damascus to take place yet. For whatever reason, on God's timeline, it doesn't seem to be the right time right now. And so my thought is that the Lord made sure that this missile did not hit that facility. Because if it did, I mean, it would be horrendous. And right now, Iran and Israel are engaged in a war. They're not talking about it. They're calling it everything but that. But everybody in the know, in the intelligence communities, all the generals in the United States, in Iran, in Saudi Arabia, in Israel, they're all calling what's going on with Iran and Israel a war. The Palestinians were encouraged by Iran to, over the weekend, this past weekend, to send 45 missiles from Gaza into Jerusalem. And then the Palestinians started rioting within Jerusalem proper. And so we got that mess that's happening. We have Iran on the northern border amassing troops on the northern border of Israel. Iran's been warned by Bibi Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, don't continue to do that. Otherwise, they're going to be destroyed. Bibi will send in the military, the F-22 Raptors that Israel has that are super advanced fighters, jet fighters. He'll send them in and wipe those guys, those troops out that are near Israel's northern border. They're within 45 miles of Israel's northern border or closer. And Israel's not going to allow that to continue. So we've got that brewing. So we have multiple fronts in Israel that's brewing. And this is a mixture, a cocktail for a major, major conflict to break out. Is it the Ezekiel 38 war that we've all been talking about for years now? Don't know. Won't know until it happens, probably. But things are getting very, very tense in Israel, in the Middle East, and whatever happens over there is going to affect the rest of the world. So I just wanted to alert you. I'm going to post this article I have from Depka. Israel air defenses missed the Syrian missile that exploded near Dimona Nuclear Center. So this headline is saying that Israel's air defenses, that are excellent at seeing bombs come in and destroying them in the air, missed this missile. It got through Israel's missile defenses, and thank the good Lord above that it exploded outside of Dimona and didn't cause any damage to the nuclear facility. Again, that close to having a very bad conflict potentially break out, or a reaction from Israel that could have ended up destroying Damascus. Imagine for a moment if it did hit that nuclear area, that nuclear development area, and wiped a lot of it out. Israel would not have just said, oh, well, we'll have to rebuild it. That would not have happened that way. She would strike back with fury and all of her might to send a message that you don't do that. See, Israel lives in a very tough neighborhood. The Islamic radicals that are Israel's enemies, and make no mistake about it, Iran being Persia, you can read about Persia in Ezekiel 38 and what their attitude is toward Israel. But they are dead set on the destruction and annihilation of all Jews in the Middle East and then outside of the Middle East. And they want to wipe Israel off the map. So Israel can't, if she were to have been hit by that missile, she can't just, lob a little tiny missile over there near Damascus and let them know how bad that was. No, she'll send up one of her nuclear bombs and drop it right on the center of Damascus and wipe the entire area out. I mean, that's the neighborhood that Israel's in. All that the Islamic terrorists, Iran being included in this, understand is a heavy hand and power. They don't understand nice talk, and so it's interesting to me on a political level since Biden became president, how much unrest there is in the world now. In the United States, murder rates and mayhem are just through the ceiling. We haven't seen terror and murder and mayhem and acts of violence like this in our country for probably the last 50 years. And it's just getting out of control. In New York, I don't know if you heard about this, but over 5,000 police officers have quit or retired in New York. And it's happening all over the country. The police are leaving and going to states like Florida, where the Florida governor and the chief of police in the cities in Florida support the police officers. And that's what's happening. They're going to Texas, they're going to Florida, they're going to other areas in the nation where they'll be respected and they'll be welcomed. So they're just leaving New York in droves. Very good, talented, seasoned police officers just said, bye, New York, and they're gone. So this is getting really serious. They're now thinking if it continues like this, that they may have to federalize the police departments and turn them into federal installations. We've never had that in this country, where the police are federalized. That means that President Biden would be in control of the police. And we've seen where that's led. So I'll attach this article to the comment section under this video in Facebook. But it's a very interesting article on what happened with this missile and kind of Israel's attitude about it. So I'll make sure I get that to you. So that's the update for tonight. I just wanted to alert you that the Middle East is really, really the people there are just very nervous as to what's going on. And in Jerusalem, can you imagine 45 bombs through the night just dropping on you? It's not a way to live, and the people in Jerusalem are very upset over it. So pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Pray for the peace of Israel, the peace of the Jewish people. They need our prayers. That's one of the most important things that we can do for Israel right now, is pray that God's peace will rest upon his people. This is Bro Stuff. I'll see you at another Prophecy Insights. Have a very good evening. Bye for now.